So you finally finished full OLL and you're super excited to keep getting faster at speed cubing, but you have no idea what to work on next. In this video, I'm going to try and explain all the different skills that you can work on instead of just learning more algorithms to get faster. This is a very complicated topic. A little bit about me and why you should listen to me. I've been cubing for like 13 years. No, that's wrong. 14 years. I have coached a few dozen people from early stage beginners who average like a minute down to kids who are pushing sub 9, sub 8. I've interviewed many of the fastest speed cubers in the world, and so I have a pretty good understanding of what people are thinking and needing to improve on, from world-class people to beginners, and I myself am sub 10 in an official competition. So I'm not an expert, but I'm also not trash. So here is the big picture overview of how to get faster after you have finished full OLL and PLL. This video is just going to be me in front of a whiteboard the whole time. If you're into high edit or fast videos, this isn't going to be for you. So going from early stages of speed cubing where you're just learning algorithms, early speed cubing is very structured progression. Everything you do is like learn this, then this, then this, then this, right? It's super obvious. First, beginner's method. Then after beginner's method, you learn CFOP. And this will be broken down into F2L first. And then you'll learn OLL, or PLL usually first, and then OLL. And you'll probably learn a bunch of various tricks along the way. And you'll even break this out into like 2-look PLL, 2-look OLL, right? You slowly add all this stuff on. And the next thing you needed to work on was obviously learning more algorithms. But once you learn all these giant alg sets, now you're probably wondering what happens. Well, late speed cubing switches from very structured progression to many small skills you can improve near infinitely. Okay? So there are 3 main categories of skills that you have to improve as a late stage speed cuber. This is at least how I think about it. The first one is the moves you do to the cube, right? That's obvious. You have to choose a solution to solve the cube. The second one is how you do the moves, the way your hands move, the speed at which your hands turn, the way you hold the cube. And then the last one is how your mind works. These 3 broad areas of skill have a ton of sub-skills under each one. There is no one path after learning OLL that every cuber should follow, because different people have different strengths and weaknesses. So I'm just going to try and show you the whole skill tree from here as to things that you can work on. The most common thing that people should work on is refining their F2L solutions. Here's what I mean by that. When most people first start learning how to speed cube and they learn F2L, they do a lot of things that are very inefficient. What really advanced F2L should look like is no pair is ever longer than 12 moves. So if you look at a cube, this pair right here, orange-blue, that you can solve with triple sexy, that's the longest an F2L pair should ever be. You should never be using more than 12 moves to solve an F2L pair. Almost every F2L pair you should be able to solve in like 8 or 9 moves. Rarely should it take you 11 plus. Most beginners, that's absolutely not the case. And even if you're not a beginner, you have a lot of F2L pairs that you're not quite solving optimally. There are a few different websites. Solved.no is one, SpeedCubeDB is one, where if you go to algorithms on Solved.no, or you go to 3x3 and then F2L on SpeedCubeDB, you can literally see for every single F2L case, here is an optimal algorithm to solve. And you can do this from every case, every angle. Solved.no and SpeedCubeDB are both fantastic resources for this. If you have finished full OLL and you're looking for a moves you do thing to improve your solves, literally go through every F2L case from every angle on those websites. You're not trying to rote memorize all the algorithms. What you're trying to do is find bad habits in your solutions and learn intuitively better ways to do it. I did this when I was averaging 11, and it really cleaned up my solutions. I had one coaching student who did this when he was averaging 18, and he's still sending me messages, and he's now averaging like 14, like 10 or 12 weeks later, and he largely attributes it to this right here. His solves got almost 15 moves more efficient on average just by going through a giant list of F2L solutions and making each one more efficient. So this is a huge, huge, huge thing that, okay, so you finished OLL, but you're doing a lot of suboptimal things in your F2L. Another moves you do thing that you can be working on is improving cross and Xcross solutions. A lot of beginners don't do their cross in the optimal number of moves. Cross study cubing. Yeah, Lars Vandenberg right here. So this guy, absolute goat. He did this study where he computed out based on every possible way the cross can be arranged, how many moves it'll take you. And most cubers know that your cross should never take you more than 8 moves to solve, but really you should be aiming for 7 moves or less to solve your cross because it's extremely rare, almost like way less than 1% of the time that your cross will actually take you 8 moves to solve. So you should almost always be doing 7 move crosses or less. And if you manage to learn to be dual color neutral, which I switched to dual neutral after 10 years of cubing, it was a very hard grind, but I'm thankful I did it. Over 95% of your crosses you'll be able to solve in 6 moves or less. So most cubers don't realize that their cross solutions could be substantially more efficient, or they're really bad at seeing Xcross solutions, which is solving F2L pairs along with cross at the same time. There's a bunch of ways that you can train this. My favorite one, I'm going to plug this website all over the place in this video because it's really good. The trainers on solved.no. If you go to 3x3 inspection trainers, you can do cross and Xcross trainers, and you can force your cross to be a certain number of moves long. And then every time you do the scramble, I'm looking for a 7-move optimal solution. Same thing with X crosses. You can force it to generate you 6-move or 7-move X crosses to train your brain to find efficient paths to more complicated solutions than what you're already able to do. So the moves you do, refine your F2L solutions, refine your cross and your X cross solutions. What else can you do? This is something that I did not realize was important until I started talking to like top 50 3x3 solvers, and it's multi-slotting, which is just how one solution affects the next one. Multi-slotting always sounded like a really scary thing to me, but in reality, it's not that deep. Here's a great example of why multi-slotting is useful and not as complicated as you would think. It's just hard to actually do without a lot of knowledge of the cube. So this case, we have the green-orange pair right here that goes here in the front. Looks easy to solve. Just do this. And now you're left with blue-orange right here, which you could solve this way. The problem is if you slightly alter the way you solve this pair, instead of doing R, U, R prime, if you solved it with, or it's not R, it's L, with L prime, U2, L prime, or L prime, U2, L, now this pair is set up to a 3-mover. So that's an example of a multi-slot where you see if I do this pair my normal way, the next pair is hard. But if I slightly change how I solve this pair to be like this, the next pair is easy. That's multi-slotting. And at a high level of 3x3, it's very, very important. I was talking to Dylan Miller about this. He's top 20. And he was saying that one of the main things that took him from mid-8 to sub-8 on 3x3 was exactly what I just showed you. Realizing that bad cases in F2L are his fault, not luck. And if he is able to look ahead to later F2L cases he's going to get, he can influence his solution path so that later cases are easier for him. Okay, so moves you do, F2L solutions, cross and X-cross, multi-slotting, anything else. More algorithms. You can always learn lots more algs. More algs. Probably not most efficient, though. So a lot of people finish OLL, and they're like, I should learn COLL, right? Well, COLL actually doesn't help you all that much. It's useful way later because you're able to use COLL recognition patterns to predict corner permutation across all of OLL. You're able to use COLL as a stepping stone to learn ZBLL if you're into that sort of thing. But COLL is not very helpful. Neither is winter variation or VLS or ZBLL. They're very marginally helpful, but you would spend dozens and dozens of dozens, if not hundreds of hours learning some of those algorithms, when instead you could be applying that effort to something in one of these two skill categories, which would almost certainly make you faster for the amount of time you put in. So stay away from just learning more algorithms. It is probably not the best skill for you to work on. All right, so that's most of the stuff under the moves you do to solve the cube faster. Next is how you do those moves. So this is solutions, this is execution. How you do moves, thing number one is finger tricks. This is very broad, and there are a lot of types of finger tricks. Let me go back to my cube view. So finger tricks includes things like, how do you hold the cube? It is astonishing to me how many intermediate cubers have home grips that don't allow them to do things like easy U2s, to do things like D2s. They don't know how to do M2 flicks or D2 flicks or something like that. There's a whole bunch of finger tricks that they just can't do, or they're holding the cube in such a way that they're almost wrestling the cube at times. Pinkies go on the bottom along this seam right here. These two fingers right here, middle and ring, go right here and right here. These fingers are now free to turn the top, and then your left and right hand are free to turn the cube. If you're not in that basic position, fix your basic hand position. Then all of the intricacies of how you solve the cube flow from that. So all your algorithms, you should be learning finger tricks that allow you to optimize your own home grip, but you obviously know that already because you've learned OLL and PLL. You learned a bunch of dedicated finger tricks for those algorithms. What most intermediate advanced cubers are not doing is thinking about how their F2L solutions allow them to have good versus bad finger tricks. So like take this F2L case. When I was a newer cuber, this is probably 8 years ago or so, I found a really cool little algorithm in some YouTube video that went like this. And I was like, that's so cool. I can solve the F2L pair like that. But that's a super wonky algorithm because you have to use these weird pinch M move finger tricks, and it's not nice. The algorithm I use now looks like this. And it's way, way easier to finger trick, and it flows from this home grip position. There are a zillion cases similar to that where intermediate cubers learn F2L solutions that are bad for their finger tricks, but are kind of fun to do. Or they choose an F2L pair order that makes them use their left hand a lot, when instead they could be defaulting to using their right hand because they're faster with their right hand. So finger tricks are not just doing algorithms well, it's choosing moves that allow your hands to move in more ergonomically optimal ways. Let me show another example. So for the sake of argument, let's take this case. I know there's other solutions we could do, but let's assume we're going to do the green-red pair right here. In order to do this pair, we're going to have to rotate because it belongs in the back, and this edge is misoriented. You can tell that because green is on the left or right instead of the front or back. There are two ways you could do this. You could rotate so that it's oriented, and now you could solve it like that. But what I would do here is break it apart with my right hand first, and then rotate like this so that I can insert easily with my left hand. I'm just leaning a little bit more on my right hand doing moves because I'm faster and more stable with my right hand. There are a lot of little situational things like that in solves that you build up intuition for over time, but I've coached enough intermediate solvers who rely on B moves or kind of clunky lefty solutions when they're competent with their right hand that you should look for ways to allow yourself to use finger tricks you're comfortable with, not just know them in algorithms. The next one is turning style. And there's a bunch of little precision in turning things that intermediate solvers need to work on. A lot of intermediate turners go, I just have a choppy turning style, bro. My turning just isn't great, bro. I kind of disagree with it when people say that. I think generally that's an excuse for them being lazy in how they practice and not building up good habits. A choppy turning style is two things: inaccuracy and poor mental decision making. Inaccuracy meaning when you turn the cube, you're not turning it so that one corner matches up with the next one like this. You're kind of like half doing it and then trying to turn again before you finish lining up the cube. And poor mental decision making in that instead of focusing on making sure your turns are good, you're focused on going fast. There's a saying in the military, fast is slow. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. If you're in a firefight and you're trying to reload your weapon, you don't want to be panicking and trying to reload it super fast. Focus on going smooth, and in the long run, you'll make less mistakes and build up the muscle memory to go more quickly. So work really hard to develop a turning style that's accurate, and in your mind, you're just focused on smooth accuracy, and eventually speed will come. Cube motions is another part. Oh my goodness. Cube motions of how you do the moves. This is things like rotations, things like whether you're looking at the bottom or the back of the cube. This is a giant thing that I'm working on doing right now. And then turning speed. This is a general thing, which a lot of people are like, oh, I just need to turn faster. The thing about turning speed, though, is it is highly dependent on a lot of factors other than just the raw ability of your hands to move quickly. You can, in a lot of cases, improve just how quickly your fingers manipulate the cube through things like doing a PLL time attack, which is doing all the PLL algorithms back to back to back. I really like that drill. I think it's satisfying. But turning speed is also, are your finger tricks good? Is your turning accurate? Are you not constantly tipping the cube all over the place? Are you not regripping or doing unnecessary rotations so that your hands are on the cube, twisting layers around more than they are moving the whole cube around in your hands? The reality of turning speed, though, and this is what most people until the advanced level don't understand, is that turning speed is much more often a function of your mind than it is of your hands and your muscles. Physically, lots of cubers can spam turning speed really, really quickly. But what dictates turning speed in an actual solve? Well, how much you're pausing and how much you're not turning the cube. Most of turning speed is not about physical ability, though a large part of it is. It is mostly about your mind's ability to turn the cube quickly. So, under the how your mind works category, there are 3 big sub-skills. And these, in my opinion, are the 3 biggest things you need to be working on after you learn OLL and PLL. The first one is look ahead. This is a very general term that most cubers kind of understand. When I ask most cubers what is look ahead, they say something like not pausing or looking at the next thing instead of what you're solving right now. And that's correct. It means making your mind think about something that is not the thing you're working on at that exact moment. That way, you avoid the look of solve, stop, solve, stop, solve, stop. If you're watching this video, I'm going to assume you have a basic understanding of what look ahead is. Dylan Miller has an amazing video. If you want to learn more about look ahead, this has pretty much all the information in it that you're going to need about how look ahead works. Go watch this video. I love this video. I have a comment on here saying this is amazing. So please go watch that. If you want to learn about how look ahead works, that is overall the most fundamental and important skill for getting faster at 3x3. Like there's a lot of how you turn the cube and the moves that you do, but look ahead is the biggest, deepest skill of anything on this whiteboard. Adjacent to the skill of look ahead, which is training your mind to look at things that are not what you're currently solving, is the skill of prediction. Prediction is look ahead, but another level up. Look ahead is watching the cube's next step. Prediction is being at one part of the solve and knowing exactly what the next step is going to be. Cube skills, levels of speed cubing. Felix Zemdegs has this phenomenal blog article, which let me see if I can find it. Is it this one? No, hang on. It's this article, Look Ahead Progression Framework. This is Felix Zemdegs, probably the greatest cuber of all time. Felix talks about 3 different stages of look ahead. The spotting phase. Let me zoom in on this so that you can actually see it. Spotting, which is where, hey, there's an F2L pair, watch it, and now look around for the next one. There's tracking, which is, okay, I found one. Now I'm going to watch the next 2 pieces so I can solve them right away. And then the knowing phase, which is where I see 4 pieces, 2 F2L pairs. I already know the moves that I need to do to solve the first pair and exactly how it affects the next one. This progression right here, going from spotting to tracking to knowing, is how most solvers have to go from like 11 seconds down to 8 or so. I did this video on my channel with Caden Lee and Dylan Miller about is look ahead dying? Is look ahead or prediction more important? The thing is, that's not the right question. They're different levels of the same skill, which is your mind deciding on the next moves you need to do. Look ahead is your mind constantly deciding about the next thing kind of slowly. Prediction is your mind figuring out what's coming next before it has new visual information. These 2 things mostly have to do with time and exposure to the cube. You develop intuition through repeated exposure to a limited set of stimuli. So, like an artificial intelligence chess engine. It looks at a whole bunch of chess positions and it learns what's good and bad and what good and bad moves are in each of those positions. And then over time, you develop instincts for what's good and bad. It's kind of how humans learn how to play chess or anything within a bounded set of conditions like speed cubing. There are drills you can do to improve your prediction. You can scramble the cube, solve cross, look at two F2L pairs, close your eyes, solve them. That was helpful for me because it forces you to use your prediction brain well. So you do have to do some dedicated practice of it, but in large part, it is solving with intention. These things will not come unless you have a good foundation of F2L, cross, and Xcross solutions. These require good knowledge over here. So a lot of cubers who are like 20, 18, 15 seconds are like, I should be working on lookahead, or I should be working on inspecting well, which is the next skill, inspection depth, and inspecting cross +1, when their F2L solutions aren't even good yet. Don't try to get your brain to predict what's coming next until the moves that it is using to predict the next thing you need to do are good. Learn good F2L solutions first, then come over here. Inspection depth is the last thing with how your mind works. This is something that a lot of intermediate cubers focus on without needing to, because they are still in the mindset of structured progression. Well, learn this method, then this method, then this alg set. The next skill is planning cross +1. If you've never heard of this idea, planning cross +1 means in inspection, planning your entire cross and first F2L pair out, so that by the time you start the solve, you could close your eyes and solve all of that, knowing exactly what's coming. The reality is, getting to this point and doing it well requires everything else on this board pretty much. You need to have really good F2L solutions already baked in so that you're not planning pointless stuff. You need to be really good at finding efficient cross solutions every single solve. You need to have good finger tricks and a smooth turning style so that the solution that you plan deep into inspection makes ergonomic sense for how your hands are going to turn the cube. You need to have a lot of knowledge about how pieces move around the cube, how one move affects the next one, and be able to instinctively predict a lot of stuff in order to get to this point. Otherwise, you're just going to be slamming your head against the wall and trying to do something that you're not even close to ready to do yet. Like trying to beat a really, really, really hard level of a progression-based video game without having the HP or equipment or stuff you need to beat the level. Level up all your other skills first and then do this later. I average low 10, high 9, and I do not play cross +1 yet. I have talked to many, many, many very fast cubers, like world record holders and European champions and North American champions and North American record holders. And essentially all of them said, I did not start playing cross +1 consistently until I was low 8. The reason is, without meaning to, they were leveling up all the other skills on this thing except inspection depth. And then inspection depth, like, it was natural. It was the next step because they had all the right solutions in their head, all the knowledge instinctively of how pieces fit together, all the right sort of turning and finger tricks, so that planning deeply wasn't a stretch. It was what they actually were naturally ready to do next. So that's most of the sub skills that you can work on. There are videos on YouTube specifically for all these things. So a little more practically, how do you practice now? Now that you can't just memorize more algorithms, what's the next thing that you should be working on? Well, there are a few different ways that you should be splitting your practice. There's 3 big categories. The first one is doing solves. The second one is intentional practice or targeted practice. And the third one is getting coaching / solve review. Okay. This is an order of importance. Coaching / solve review is totally optional. Targeted practice is important, but not required. And if you're not solving, you're not going to get any faster. The key with solves is to always solve with one thing in mind to improve. A lot of cubers try to have like 6 different things in mind that they're bad at. They're like, I'm bad at cross, and my F2L solutions are bad, and my lookahead is bad, and my OLL recognition is slow, and I do that one PLL AUF thing poorly, and also I have this bad habit with rotations, and they load on all these mistakes that they say they're going to work on when they solve, and then nothing changes. Your brain's capacity to actively change something about a habit is really low. You need to pick one thing that you're bad at and just fix that one thing as you're solving. So my one thing right now is the way that I look around the cube. A lot of times during solves, I will tip the cube like this or like this to look at the back or look at the front. If I'm good, I shouldn't have to do that. all the pieces here and like except for these bottom back two corners, I should be able to just tell what they are just by looking front on. Every time I do this, I'm limiting the amount of useful information I can see. I can't see anything up here or anything back here. And back here, same thing. It messes my finger tricks up, it messes my flow up. But I do it because I haven't been deducing what lives here, these four corners. I've been like needing to literally lay eyes on it exactly. Learning that is one of the important things that will take my ability to flow through solves well to the next level and probably help me get from, where I'm at now, which is low 10, high 9 to low 9, high 8-ish, maybe. That's my one thing right now. So lots of solves, great. Solve however much or little you're comfortable with, but you have to have something you're trying to improve, but not more than one thing. Targeted practice is only useful insofar as it improves your solves. I went through a phase when I got back into cubing more seriously, like a half year ago, where I was really, really structured about, I'm going to target my F2L this, I'm going to target my inspection depth that. The problem was I would do like a month of targeted practice on some inspection thing, but never use it in real solves, which meant that it never actually affected my solving. And the whole point is, improving my solving. It's doing things that will get me faster. And I wasn't even really doing things that had any hope of getting me faster in solves for months. I was just targeting nothing. Most people do underuse this, though. Like, just drill your PLLs for 10 minutes a day. And if you average like 14 or 13, you are going to get so much faster because like a half second, a full second a lot of the time, because you're going to make less mistakes on your last layer, which is where you always screw up. There are other things you can do here as well for look ahead and whatnot, but probably like 75 to 90% of your time minimum should be focused on dedicated solves, as long as they are active solves. They are solves where your brain is doing things. And then, I don't know, 10 to 25% max of your time is on targeted practice. But almost all your time should be spent on solves. And I have two reasons for saying this as somebody who did a ton of targeted practice previously. The first is targeted practice is only useful if it helps your solves. And if you're not solving enough, you don't know if it's helping. Second is, essentially, every single fast person ever primarily got there through solves. Even all the new young kids who are coming out of China and just blowing all the North American, European cubers out of the water, they solve an obscene amount, like 3 or 4 hours a day of just solving. And if they're doing targeted practice, it's like drilling algorithms that they're going to use in solves. And it's way less than the targeted solving that they do. So just solve a lot. That is the best way to get faster. Asterisk, as long as you pick a skill from the skill chart and focus on the one specific application of that skill that applies to your solving when you're going, and not just brainlessly knocking stuff down. Coaching and solve review, I put on here as well. You don't have to do this. I've talked to cubers who are ridiculously fast. Like I was just talking to Henry Lickner. He is top 10 in the world for several big cubes. He was on the podium at the World Championship for 6x6, and he never reviews solve footage. He doesn't get coaching. He just solves, and he's really good, like really, really good. So that can work. If you don't want to pay for coaching, you can set up a camera like I have in my spot here and film yourself doing a few solves and watch it. And it becomes really, really obvious when you're not in the middle of a solve. Oh, wow, my turning style is really bad. My look ahead is really bad. I'm making an obvious mistake on this F2L pair. Often you just can't pick it up unless you look at it from the outside. Coaching can help as well here, but it's kind of like, are you the type who wants to spend money getting a couple pieces of advice? Like really coaching sessions generally boil down to a coach looks at your solves and tells you some things you already know, and then tells you some things that you don't know that will improve your solving a good bit, but you probably would have figured out on your own anyway. So coaching is your mileage may vary. I love coaching. I get coaching all the time. I pay for it with my own money. I work with Cubing GG to get coaching as well. Shop at thecubicle.com, code TRUE at checkout for 5% off your entire order if this video is helping you. Shameless plug. Where was I going with that? Yeah, coaching is helpful because it allows you to do more effective solves and targeted practice, but you can do it yourself if you want. You can skip it if you want. You kind of know if you're the sort of person who would benefit from coaching or not. Let me double check if I have anything else in my notes. I don't, so there you go. This is the advice that I wish I'd gotten when I was finishing OLL. If you enjoyed this video, I interview fast cubers and put like podcasts up about it every week or so here on the channel. If you need to buy new speed cubes, I highly recommend thecubicle.com. My discount code is TRUE, TRUE, my last name. And yeah, hit subscribe if you enjoyed it, share this with a friend, and see you next one.